Well, welcome everybody. It's First Tuesdays with Heart. If this is your first time joining us, First Tuesdays with Heart is sponsored by the Heart Peer Support Team in connection with the Resiliency and Justice Center, which was previously known as the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center. HEART stands for Healing, Empowering, and Rebuilding Together. We are now a peer support program available for anyone who is impacted by any mass violence incident. We were previously just Route 91. After our grant expired, we were able to expand that, and now we're here to support anybody who needs that support. But real quickly, I wanted to introduce you to our team. Alice Goldstein is the co-director of HEART. She's also the Route 91 and UNLV support group facilitator. Jackie Harris is the Heart coach. She's also our Resiliency and Justice Center Behavioral Health Program Coordinator. I'm Jill Winter. I'm co-director of Heart. I'm also a Route 91 survivor, and I assist Alice with the UNLV support group. So we decided to share this with you guys today. I think for most of us, myself included, I expected the healing to be a lot easier than it has been from our incident. And I think that a lot of our friends and families kind of think it's going to be the same way. We expect it just to be one easy jump after a little bit of therapy. And in reality, it's oftentimes a jumbled mess. This goes not only with a mass violence incident, but a lot of things. But until you've been through something major, I don't know that you realize how messy healing can be. And that's kind of why we decided to start First Tuesdays with Heart, was to get together with each other for support and also learn more tools that we can use along that journey. So before we get started, we just wanted to go over a few housekeeping rules. This program is intended for those directly or indirectly impacted by a mass violence incident. Directly were those who were physically there, first responders, hospital staff, etc. Indirectly impacted are family members and friends of those directly impacted, people who were in the area at the time of the incident, community members, etc. Because we want to keep this a safe space, if you do not consider yourself to be in one of these categories, we respectfully request that you remove yourself at this time. This is a safe space for anyone impacted by mass violence. So we want to make sure that anything that's said in the discussion stays within this group. Please feel free to tell people what you've learned by the presentation, and the presentation will be available to watch afterwards. But like Alice said, we do not record the discussion because we want you to be able to say how you feel and feel comfortable that it's not going to get to everybody later on. We also we want to learn and discuss our healing journey and challenges. So we will not be discussing the details of our individual incidents, as we don't want to activate others. It is fine. In a second, we're going to ask you to share in the chat which mass violence incident you were impacted by. But that's all we want to do. If you want to talk to us later, that's fine. But we want to make sure that people are feeling comfortable and learning in this area. If you would please raise your hand to speak, and that's located under the reactions in the Zoom toolbar, and wait to be called on. Otherwise, if we get too many people speaking at once, it gets a little bit crazy. And then, like we had mentioned, please mute yourself if you're not talking. And again, we want this to be a safe space, so we're not going to bring up anything controversial like politics, religion, weapons, things like that. So in the chat, if you're comfortable, we appreciate you letting us know which incident you were impacted by. And if you want to tell us where you live, that would be great, but that's not necessary. So I actually was living in San Diego when Route happened. I was in Vegas visiting, and 3.5 years ago, moved to just outside of Nashville, which is where I am now. Okay, so we are super excited to have Tyler Winkler with us. He's an attorney with the Resiliency Center, and he specializes and he's really passionate about assisting individuals who have been impacted by trauma. after the UNLV shooting, Jackie and Tyler went and did a presentation for the students over there. And Jackie was so excited about Tyler's presentation that she was encouraging us to bring him on, share with us. So, um, Tyler, you ready?
Absolutely. Let me take over the screen. Okay, so it should just be a black screen right now. But little bit about myself. So my brief little bio, really helpful to get what my whole deal is. I've been working at the Vegas Strong Resiliency Center since 2018. We're now the Resiliency and Justice Center, of course. Um, and today, something I wanted to talk about is parasympathetic recovery. Um, Kind of a jargony word, but I'm hoping if you've not heard of it before, it'll all click after us talking today. Um, and basically, what I want to discuss is, well, why I'm interested in this is because I want to know why stuff works. A lot of time doing any kind of like therapy or dealing with, big emotions, advice is to do deep breathing, mindfulness exercises, grounding techniques. And it's not enough for me to just be told, do these things. I want to know why it works. And, maybe then I can find out other stuff too. So that's what I want to talk about today. And I really appreciate you all being here and listening to me. Um, let's get started. There we go. So trauma, stress, these symptoms we have of all that stuff that's bubbling up inside us are normal. That's like the biggest thing I want to highlight, that all these things we feel, how our bodies react, it's all a result of normal brain function. Our senses respond to stuff that's going on and we react to them. The stress reactions, trauma stuff, stimulate the brain circuitry related to it. And usually we're thinking about fight or flight. We get a stress reaction and our body goes into that fight or flight. There's lots of other F's: fight or fight, flight, freeze, fawn, um, all those F words, make love. Um, and that's when that stress reaction happens, right? When we're in that fight or flight, our bodies are trying to keep us alive. Our bodies prioritize immediate survival. So, increase our heart rate, norepinephrine, cortisol, those things are secreted in your body. It sharpens all your senses. The idea being either to get away from danger or to fight for your life or whatever it may be. And at the same time, it suppresses the more optimistic stuff our body does. So our immune system, don't need to fight off a cold or start building up antibodies when you need to run from a lion. That's why it's very common after something really stressful, people get sick, or have issues with like always catching a cold. Um, Also shuts down digestion. You don't need to be working on lunch when you have to survive for something. Folks with lots of stress, lots of, history of trauma have stomach problems, digestion problems. And really important to what we're going to be talking about today is when we're in that survival mode, that stress is taking over, that stress reaction, um, it shuts down or decreases our higher brain function stuff because everything becomes self-referential. Just I need to think about me and to keep me safe. So thinking about other people, compassion, things that aren't just the big emotions we're feeling, it's harder to access that stuff. And this kind of gets compounded because our brains can recreate thoughts and feelings. So even if we're not involved in something stressful, we can think about something stressful or be reminded about something special, and that can bring to mind all those feelings, all those thoughts. And so stress for a lot of us, instead of feeling like an event that happened, sometimes it can feel constant, like something that we're always experiencing and dealing with. And so these things like grounding techniques, deep breathing, meditation, these are all skills that we can develop and use to intentionally bring all that stress reaction stuff back into a state of calm. So I'm going to show you a picture of a brain. Well, it's actually, this is our autonomic nervous system. I'm not going to test you on all my vocab words today, but autonomic means automatic and involuntary. So you think a thought and your pancreas secretes a hormone. And I'm not even sure where my pancreas is. It just all does it automatically. And our brain kind of works in a like different poles. So we have like, if we were a car, we have the gas, and that's the sympathetic nervous system. And that's all the fight or flight stuff. The dilate pupils, well, the big ones are like increased heartbeat, so we can run or fight, maybe all those things we think about. And the brake is our parasympathetic nervous system. So all the opposite stuff. So constrict our pupils, turn digestion and stuff back on, the stuff that we're at rest. So parasympathetic recovery is about when we get into that fight or flight mode, when our sympathetic nervous system is activated, trying to acknowledge it and intentionally get to the recovery part. Good way to think about it, or like this metaphor that we can use, is cognitive breathing or brain breathing. We're trying to get from fight or flight to rest and digest. So that first part, the sympathetic nervous system, the gas, fight or flight, that's just like taking an in-breath. And the parasympathetic, the opposite side, rest and digest, that's the out-breath. And the in-breath, out-breath thing isn't just like a convenient metaphor, it's literal. If you can see in my little chart here, sympathetic nervous system relaxes airways, right? Every time you inhale, you're activating your sympathetic nervous system just a little bit. Your heart rate increases even. And when you exhale, the opposite happens. You're activating your parasympathetic recovery system. Your heartbeat slows down a little bit and constricts the airways for the air to come out. Again, summing up, we're paying attention to ourselves and our well-being and our stress and responding intentionally, bringing our nervous system back into a state of calm, tension and release, inhale and exhale continuously. So I think stress is kind of a vague word, and like it's so vague, it's kind of even hard to tell, like, what are we talking about? And a lot of the time too, I think when I'm conveying the idea of parasympathetic recovery, it might sound like whenever we're feeling uncomfortable or don't like what we're feeling, then we're going to jump to parasympathetic recovery. And if we learn these skills, then, we're not going to feel uncomfortable anymore. And it's not true. That's not how it works. We are going to feel stress. It is going to happen. But so we have some vocab words that we can all use together. When we think about stress, it's not just all bad. We normally think about distress, all the bad stuff. That's when all the stress feels overwhelming. There's also eustress, it's like the good stress. And I think the key difference to think about here is you're activating that stress response, but it's not overwhelming. It's manageable. And it could potentially even be rewarding. Some examples like starting a new job or a first date, like exercising. These are things that are getting our sympathetic nervous system activated, but we're not feeling overwhelmed by it and having like kind of all those negative effects for it. So back again to parasympathetic recovery. Our experience of trauma or distress has a beginning and an ending. And so this isn't about preventing all distress from happening. This is about allowing ourselves to experience the ending of that distress. And engaging in parasympathetic recovery skills, it's like something that you can build and get better at and more aware of. It will promote more eustress over distress. So I think it's kind of a common experience that a lot of our distress comes from our fear of feeling it and not knowing when it's going to end. And when we have tools that can help us feel it and let it go and let it end, that overwhelming feeling can start to go away. And even when we have distress, we can understand that it is manageable. I'm going to give you just one really quick example that works with our cognitive breathing framework, and it's called 2 feet, 1 breath. And this is a really easy way to practice a parasympathetic recovery skill. It was developed for doctors working in emergency rooms. Before they would go to, a new patient, go to a new room, they would just pause and become mindful of the weight on their feet. That's the 2 feet part. And then do 1 breath cycle in and out. 2 feet, 1 breath. And that's a way, if we're busy or, can't start to meditate or whatever it may be, just a way to pause, put a period on whatever we were doing previously and starting the new thing. We got more stuff, some more parasympathetic recovery activities or skills that we can develop. And a big part of it is just avoiding where that stress is constant. Um, Creating space in your day, where you can check in with yourself, acknowledge when you're feeling distressed. I think that's like it sounds, like very simple, but if we can start to get in touch with, oh, I'm feeling anxious, I'm feeling whatever it may be, that's the point where we can decide, is this like distressing? Am I feeling overwhelmed? Let's try a skill to kind of end that anxiety, get to the parasympathetic recovery part. So if that's happening, just drop anchor and practice one of our skills we know, and the stuff that we know that works, the breathing, grounding exercises, things like that. This 5 minutes of movement each hour, this is definitely for like if you're at work, if you have like a desk job or something, or you're working on something, or even if you're just binge watching TV. It's just a good way to set structure and space for yourself. Get up and move, do something, maybe do some neck rolls or something every hour. Buddies, and I think this is something that we all kind of naturally do, but remember the sympathetic nervous system, that survival stuff is all self-referential. And talking with someone, connecting with someone else, that takes us out of ourselves. We have to access, our rest and relaxation part of our body and our higher brain function. And any kind of conversation, it doesn't have to be about the stuff that's bothering us, but just engaging with someone else where again, you're taking the focus off of you and working and speaking with someone. And my last little bit here is at least 20 minutes each day, lose yourself in something absorbing. So, like jigsaw puzzle, gardening, something that gets you out of you. And I, again, this is very subjective and like your own experience, but not something where your mind's just going to wander. Something that keeps your brain busy. And again, we're bringing back to that idea of sympathetic nervous system survival. We're thinking about ourselves. So let's take time throughout the day to get out of ourselves, get absorbed into something else. Okay, I have a cool chart here talking about other parasympathetic recovery skills, kind of grouping them and by the areas of effectiveness. So you can see diaphragmatic breathing, the deep breathing exercise stuff. It's really good for high anxiety, high anger, but maybe not necessarily high sadness. However, something like grounding, mindfulness, like the meditation, all that kind of stuff, can be good for being very sad, or disassociation, kind of like spacing out, not comfortable with where you are. Skills that can just make you be mindful of the present moment are very helpful for that. PMR, or sometimes like a natural like body feedback stuff, progressive muscle relaxation. Sometimes that's something like listening to a tape and visualizing move this your arm and slowly go through muscle relaxation techniques. This is effective for somatization, stuff like when you get migraines or like kind of pains that maybe not have like a physical source. And I think those times when we're numb, right? Where we're just gonna deal with it, life sucks, whatever, it doesn't matter. Because it kind of combines that being present with getting connected with our own bodies and feeling ourselves like let go of that tension. And then just naturally relaxing things. So like aromatherapy, being out in nature, um, all that kind of cool stuff. It's really helpful for setting structure that, oh, so just setting structure throughout our day where we recognize that we're creating space to activate our parasympathetic recovery so that we know that the stress can be felt and ended. Gets us in the right headspace, right?
So when Alice and I first started with Heart, we wanted to be able to help more than just people impacted by route. And we were really limited because of the grant that we had. The grant expired on September 30th. So we went to Jackie and we asked if we could have people outside of those impacted by route, and then UNLV came up, join on our peer support program if they wanted support. And Jackie was like, sure, let's do it. So we thought we'd take it another step further. And you may not be aware, but the Resiliency Center offers a lot of integrative services programs that are free of charge to anyone impacted by route. I'm sorry, by mass violence. So we are super excited to share that we have gotten the official okay to open the integrative services program up to anyone impacted by any mass violence incident. These are free programs, which include the Heart Pure support. There's also meditation and mindfulness, trauma recovery yoga, art therapy, and in person, so in Vegas, equine therapy demonstrations. We are on the Resiliency and Justice Center calendar. So I'm going to show you an example of the calendar, but what you would do is go to the resiliencyanddusticecenter.org /calendar, click on whichever you'd like to participate and register through Eventbrite. A lot of these programs, it's my understanding, you also have to do a separate registration for the integrative services portion, but that is a one-time registration. So once you do that, you shouldn't have to register again, or you shouldn't have to register through the integrative services. You'll still have to sign up for the individual programs themselves so that you get the link to the Zoom or whatever that the facilitator is using. So this is an example of our April calendar. Anything in yellow is open to any of you guys. So anyone impacted, that includes family members, friends, community responders, first responders, hospital staff can do any of these programs that are in yellow. What we do ask is the ones that are designated by an event. Those are intended for the people impacted by those specific events. So if you see Route or UNLV, those are not open to general survivors right now. But there's a lot of really good programs that can help. I actually just did trauma recovery yoga last month, and I'm hoping to do it again Saturday. The facilitator is actually in, Jackie, is it Iran? I think Iran or Iraq.
In the Middle East somewhere, I'm not
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
But she's dealt with a lot of trauma, obviously, and it was just the affirmations that she was sharing were incredible. And I literally, that the rest of that day, I just felt like I was in a super good space because of all the positivity that she was bringing to the program. So, art therapy is always fun. The mindfulness and meditations. There are oftentimes other programs that are scheduled, but this is what is scheduled currently for April. So does anybody have any questions about that before we wrap up?
I'll just throw out a few things. One of the things that we do as well is we send a follow-up email with a link so that you can give us some feedback on the programs that you participate in, just so that we're, if you have any ideas of other things to do. The nice part is we can be very flexible and come up with other ideas. And I would recommend also to follow the Resiliency and Justice Center, as well as, of course, First Tuesdays with Heart on social media so that you can get all of those updates.
And please feel free to share this information with others who have been impacted by mass violence. We know that there, unfortunately, are a lot of resiliency centers that have only been open for a couple of years and then closed. So a lot of people impacted don't feel like they have the support. And that's what we really want to try to do. I know firsthand what a lonely feeling it can be to be a survivor. And more than anything, I want people to know that they're not alone. So please feel free to share, to talk about it, and let people know that they're not alone. So does anybody have any questions? Okay. So we just wanted to leave you guys with some additional links for some additional support. As we mentioned, if you'd like to be paired up with a mentor who has also experienced a mass violence incident, you can go to the resiliencyanddusticecenter.org /heart. The disaster distress helpline is great. They were created for people who've been impacted by man-made and natural disasters. They have crisis counselors 24/7, and their Facebook page, their Facebook support group has trained peer supporters communicating through Facebook for a good majority of the day. There's quite a few people impacted on that page. So it's a great place to go so that you know that you're not alone. The National Mass Violence Center is another wonderful site for a lot of resources. They've got a lot of just different information, including finding a therapist, things like that. And then, as always, the 988 suicide, you can text or call 988 if you or anybody around you feel like you're in danger of that. So next month, we're bringing in a certified life coach to talk with us about confidence versus self-confidence and digging deep to find my confidence after it's been shaken. I know going through a mass violence incident can really shake your confidence in a lot of things and make you question a lot of things. So she's going to talk about how we can regain that so that we feel better about ourselves. Oh, we want to thank you guys again for joining us. If you have any questions or comments or topic suggestions, I know each one of us processes our incident differently, and the things that we come across in our healing journey might be different. So if you have some suggestions on topics that we don't have covered yet, please let us know. We really want to hear from you guys because this is your group as much as it is ours.